Welcome back to Wonder and Whimsy. I'm Kim, and today we are exploring a question that sits at the intersection of philosophy, literature, faith, and art. So, the question we're asking is, what does it mean to be called? How do we know whether we're following our own desires, fulfilling a role we've created for ourselves, or responding to something larger than us? My guest today is my good friend Adam Payne, and we're using an unusual combination of texts to explore this question. We'll be discussing Edward Albee's The Zoo Story, a play about loneliness, communication, and the desperate human need to be seen. Alongside that, we'll be looking at passages from Proverbs, Psalms, Ezekiel, John, Hebrews, and other biblical texts that wrestle with purpose, wisdom, identity, and faith. So, whether you approach these ideas as a believer, a skeptic, an artist, or simply someone trying to make sense of your place in the world, I think you'll find something here worth contemplating. So, I want to begin with a simple question. Um, are we searching for meaning, or is meaning searching for us? Adam, what do you think?
It's probably both.
Both. Okay. How so?
Well, I mean, in Proverbs, I think it's chapter 2, it talks about how the conditions when wisdom will enter into you is when you seek it out. If you look for it, like for gold, for silver, for hidden treasure, then you will find it. I've heard somebody, I think earlier in the week, was talking about how like when Jesus is telling you to bring your request to God, the something about the Greek means to continue doing it. And the idea is that you're basically pulling at God like a child pulling at his clothes over and over and over, asking for the same thing, and then the door is opened.
Hmm.
So it's the pursuit, but that only gets you so far. The last little bit comes from somewhere else. And then the
Interesting.
idea of who put the idea in you to pursue it in the first place.
What was that last part?
Where did the idea to pursue it come from in the first place?
Right. That's a great question. And where do you think the idea came from?
Again, it goes back to both. I mean, it's this dance. Something it's in Proverbs again, something about how can any man know his own way? I can't remember the exact quote, but basically your direction, your path is illuminated by God. So how can anyone understand his own way?
Yeah. Okay. So it's sort of like a duality. You are creating meaning, and meaning is also creating you at the same time.
Like a
You're
cycle.
searching for meaning, and meaning is also searching for you at the same time.
Yeah, like a dance.
Yeah. Okay. So you recommended I read the Zoo Story, and thank you for that recommendation. As you know, I'm an actress and I love plays, and I had never read this play before. The title sounded like, okay, is this silly? Is this comedy? And then I dove into it, and there's so many great philosophical questions that this play raises. I really loved reading this play. I've never seen it performed, but I loved reading it. Can you just summarize for anyone listening? Can you summarize what the play's about?
I mean, the basics of it are there's a guy, he's walking along. He sees another man sitting on a bench, perfect stranger. He goes up to him, he gets his attention, and then at first it's just small talk about meaningless whatever. And the guy on the bench is very polite. And then once he opens up the conversation, then he starts getting really personal. He starts asking about his family. How much money do you make? Next thing you know, they're talking about marriage. He's divulging his sexual history, all the things that he has done, wishes he had done, people he's done it to. Talks about how miserable his life is. He goes on a long tirade about a dog for like 2 or 3 pages about how he wanted to kill a dog and he tried to befriend the dog. Um, and then he gets into an altercation with the guy on the bench and then he kills him. It's a
Yeah,
very
so
strange play.
it's very interesting. So there's two characters, Peter and Jerry. So Jerry is the guy who approaches Peter, right?
Yep.
So Peter has been sitting on this bench for a long time. It's like his ritual, to sit on this bench. And I think it's a Sunday afternoon, correct?
I don't know if the text identifies the day. It
Maybe
could
I
be.
just inferred that it should take place on a Sunday afternoon.
I always thought it was during like the work week, but I don't know. I can't remember.
And then
Uh,
um, so Jerry approaches Peter, and Jerry starts just sort of demanding all these answers to these questions. And at first, Peter's taken off guard, but then he answers all the questions. And then Jerry talks about this experience with this dog that he tries different techniques to get the dog to stop attacking. He tries being kind, he tries actually killing the dog, and then he realizes he doesn't want the dog to die. Um, and then towards the end of the play, he uh, he hands Peter a knife, and he's trying to get some sort of visceral, emotional response out of Peter. Um, Jerry reveals that his life is sort of empty and that he feels isolated and alone. And when Peter's holding the knife, Jerry just runs into it. And so yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the play. I think it would have been a different experience having watched it. But having read it, I was very struck by how surprising the ending was and how layered and nuanced the themes are. So I pulled some quotes that I liked from the play. Um, the first quote is I've been to the zoo. So, the reason why I like this quote is it's a metaphor. It's the first line of the play, and it's the last thing that Jerry says. Who is actually in the cage? The animals? Peter? Jerry? All of us? Are all of us in the cage? Because the zoo itself is sort of like a metaphor for the cages we put on ourselves. Um, So in modern life, it raises a question like, are is modern life making us more connected or more isolated? Could the zoo represent society itself? So what do you think?
In this case, I mean, you can like at a larger extent. Yeah, definitely. In the case of this, I think this play was a lot more personal. Um, I don't know if anybody else shares my view. I mean, I saw an interview with him where they asked him, "What's this play about?" And he
Mhm.
just rolled his eyes and said, "I don't know. Maybe it's about me." And then he changed the subject.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
like basically he grew up with adopted parents that were very overbearing. Like he told a story about how they had this library and he read a book in the library and at dinner he's trying to tell them, "Oh, I was reading this amazing philosophical book." And then his adopted dad stops him and he's like, "Oh, that's where that went." He's like, "I put it back in there." He's like, "You didn't put it back in the right place." So it completely shut him down because he didn't put the book back in the right place in the room. So he ran away to New York right after. This is the first play he wrote. So, I mean, to me, this play is about fear, like in every possible way. Um, I'm probably drifting off of your original question.
That's okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of art and literature is it can be interpreted in so many ways. I find that context interesting though that you watched an interview with him and he didn't answer what the play is about. But I wonder if the reason he didn't answer is because he wants you to interpret it for yourself. He doesn't want to feed you his whole uh ideas. He doesn't want to like tell you what to think. He wants you to think about the play for yourself. That might be why he answered it that way. Because that is sort of a loaded question. But I don't know. I mean, it's uh it's possible that people read this play and then they interpret meanings that the author didn't intend. And that happens a lot, I think, in literature. But the way I interpreted it was that the cage itself was a metaphor for all the cages we put on ourselves in modern life. And it does make me question, are we creating our own cages? Or is there a way that we can kind of break through those barriers? Because these two characters, they both have very different lives, and Jerry specifically represents sort of that feeling of isolation. And knowing the backstory of him and his father, I'm sure that plays into the themes. You can be physically close with someone and in the same room as someone and having an interaction with someone, yet feel very isolated within your own mind. So maybe he felt that way with his father. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but yeah,
So,
I think there's a reason why it's the first line of the play and the last thing Jerry says. I've been to the zoo. And so to me, it's a metaphor for isolation.
so when I was looking at this, to me, I think both of them are Albee. I think Jerry is the version of him in a few years that he's afraid he's going to be, because at the time he's writing this, he's barely getting by. He's going to bars, he's hooking up with God knows who, God knows where. He's basically partying.
Mhm.
And then he sits down at his typewriter and he writes this thing out in desperation because he sees where he's going.
Yeah.
And then I think Peter is the alternative. It's what his father told him he should be, the successful, because also Albie's gay. Spoiler alert in case you didn't know. And that's why, I mean, he's making fun of this. He's making fun of Peter. Oh, you have a wife. Oh, and you have parakeets. You wanted dogs. You don't get to have dogs. You've been emasculated. You have to have cats. Oh, and
Hmm.
you don't even get boys. You get daughters. And so he's constantly poking fun at him the whole time, um, challenging him. And so the idea is, I mean, at the end, he dies, but was he ever going to live? Because he gets to live as potentially in the future as Jerry, partying, completely isolated, but very like, I mean, it's to me, it's in the text all over the place that the sexual conquest. So he's connecting, but not really.
Hmm.
So do you die as yourself, or do you die in isolation as Peter, where you have all the trappings of the real world, but you're living a lie?
Yeah.
So both of them lead to death. And then
Hmm.
the opening line, I've been to the zoo. To me, there's an interesting subtext there because he says it, and then Peter doesn't acknowledge him. He just ignores him. And then he says it again. So to me, the first time he's even saying it, it's like he's confronting this possibility of who he's going to become in the future. So it's really hard to get I've been to the zoo out the first time because you're confronting, what you said you would never become. And
Hmm.
then it's interesting to me that Peter doesn't reply until he says Mister. He has to pay respect and homage to this thing that he hates, that he said he would never become. And
Yeah.
only when he gives him a title, when he acknowledges, some level of, I don't know, bourgeoisie, superiority or whatever, that's when he gets a reply.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's what it takes to get a reply. Yeah, and knowing like the author's personal background, you can't help but question if that plays into all of this. And when I was reading it, I kind of went into it blind. I didn't do any research about the author. I just wanted to interpret it at face value first. And I interpreted it as there's sort of a Peter and a Jerry within all of us. And we want to kill the Jerry within ourselves, right?
But
We want
why?
to because we want to be Peter, because Peter's like the path that our parents or society tells us we should be.
But he's so boring and dull and dead.
Exactly, exactly. We logically we want to be Peter, but emotionally we feel more connected to Jerry. At least that's just how I interpreted it during my first reading. But yeah, I mean it's just it's a lot of rich material, in my opinion. So the second quote that I really like from the story is, if you can't deal with people, you have to make a start somewhere. So this line captures Jerry's entire mission. He desperately is trying to create some sort of genuine encounter, not just polite conversation, not just small talk, a real human connection. Um, if you can't deal with people, you have to make a start somewhere. I can relate to this a lot. Just growing up, as an adolescent, figuring out how to relate to people is hard. So I used to do weird things just to try to get some sort of genuine reaction. Because everyone's operating with some sort of social mask, some sort of facade, which can get boring and it can feel isolating if you only have small talk with people that feels sort of forced and pretentious. So I can relate to Jerry's mission a lot. Um, as a comedian, that's part of why I like to make people laugh. When you can make people laugh, you see kind of an authentic reaction there. Um, and it also reminds me of this quote from Corinthians, which you recommended I check out. So this is Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love. And then it goes on. So Paul suggests communication without love is just noise. If you're just talking, but there's no like deeper love there, it's just kind of like fluff. It's just kind of inconsequential meaninglessness. And Jerry seems like he's surrounded by communication, but starved for real connection. So to me, this makes me ask, so what is the difference between talking and genuinely communicating? Thoughts?
Um, I mean, people may think I'm going too far off the deep end, but trust me, this stuff's in here if you read the play. Like the difference is Peter has like the proper love. He's married to a woman, he's got kids, everything else. And then Jerry is completely and utterly chaotic. I mean, he's just doing hookups. He talks about his landlady trying to have sex with him and how he declined it, and then he tells her that they had sex because she's always drunk and she won't remember anyway. So, like for him, that is his communication, is everything is physical. But then Peter, everything is on the surface level. So neither one of them, there's no communication happening anywhere for either one of them. So I mean, for Jerry, communication is violent, and for Peter, it's small talk, which is why he keeps trying to press Peter in every way that he can to get something real to happen.
Yeah,
And I mean, in the end, I mean, the thing that was pointed out to me was, if you think about it, in the end, Jerry actually penetrates Peter. He just does it with a knife.
that's true. I didn't
Yeah.
think of it as like penetration, but yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, literally penetrate him with the knife. And going back to what you said about Albee, being gay, I wonder if
Was it
that
was
is,
1958.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, he coded, all over the place. I mean, it was actually like really crazy. In one place, he says homosexual. He actually spells it out like
yeah.
in big letters. So that was crazy.
Yeah, it's so interesting, in the 1958, being gay was sort of looked at very differently than it is now. And I feel like there was a lot of repression when it came to that stuff. And the Bible has a lot of interesting things to say about that. I know people interpret the Bible in totally different ways when it comes to homosexuality. So I'm curious to pick your brain about that. But first, I want to talk more about the actual zoo text. So this is
Hmm.
another quote that I pulled from the zoo story that I really liked. Sometimes a person has to go a very long distance out of his way to come back a short distance correctly. So I like this because it may be the most philosophical line in the entire play. Jerry suggests that growth is rarely direct. Wisdom is often wandering, and we lose ourselves to find ourselves. We have to fail before we can understand. We have to suffer before we can mature and grow. The shortest path is not always the path that teaches us what we need to know. And growth is often non-linear. It has ebbs and flows. So that's why I really like that line. And it does have a connection to Proverbs. One of the quotes she sent me, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So this reflects how wisdom is rarely acquired through comfort. And both Jerry and the writers of Proverbs understand that truth often arrives through struggle. There's different paths to truth. So, questions to think about that this text makes you question: have the most important lessons in your life come from success or from failure? I'm curious.
Oh, always from failure. I think that's probably true for everybody. It would be great if I rolled out of bed and had everything. Um, I don't know if you wanted to, if this may be too much to touch on now, but that's the interesting thing. Like Proverbs 3:19, by wisdom the Lord laid the earth's foundations, by understanding he set the heavens in place, and by his knowledge the deeps were divided. So he started with wisdom and then went to understanding and then got knowledge. But then people have to start with knowledge and then get understanding and then get wisdom,
Right.
which baked my brain for about 2 months when I caught that one because everything's in reverse.
Everything's in reverse. Yeah. So what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, like you discover fire, so you have knowledge that it exists. Oh, you burned yourself, you have an understanding of what it can do. And then you figure out a way to apply it. Maybe you could cook with it or something.
Hmm.
So then you end up loving the fire because now you have the wisdom and how to apply it. You don't want to lose the fire. But then on the flip side, outside of this verse, I mean, it's in another place. It says God is love. Well, what is love? Love is an action, which means God started at love. So the only way I can comprehend this one is to think about like a movie script.
Hmm.
Like you had an idea for something. I mean, it's like this sci-fi future where I don't know, like the entire world, there's like some sort of plague and people are dying. And then you understand the themes of how like, these evil capitalists, they're trying to make money off these poor people who are suffering. And then it gets more specific. You end up with these characters and you imbue them with certain qualities, and now you've constructed the story. So
Hmm.
that's how I see it going in reverse. He
Yeah.
had this big idea, and then it got more specific.
Yeah.
But it all started with love. So we end at love, and he started at love.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how we end where he begins. So what would the world look like if we started with love?
I mean, I guess you could say it would go back to Adam and Eve.
I mean, if we operated as human beings with love as the start, what would the world look like, you think?
I don't know that my brain can go there because like in our state, it's like we have to have things not perfect to appreciate what is perfect.
Hmm.
I mean, look at any rich person, any rich famous person. Rarely do they end up being the motive, the ideal success. They end up into drugs or alcohol or depressed because they're given everything and they take it for granted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't
and
think we could.
often our most transformative experiences happen when our plans fall apart, when things don't go the way we want. That's when the most valuable lessons seem to manifest through struggle. Do you agree? Do you feel like suffering is a teacher?
It can be. I
Yeah.
mean, it also Proverbs goes back and forth. I mean, it talks about the wise, it talks about having understanding, but it also talks a lot about fools. It says whips for the backs of fools. Something like better a liar than a fool. It, many times. Companion of fools suffers harm. So the question is, when do you turn from being a fool? When have you had enough?
Yeah. Yeah, and who decides who's the fool? Can you tell the difference between a fool
I
and
think your life, I mean, will
yeah,
tell you the results.
the results of your life?
Yeah, it says if
Do
you
you
are
think,
wise, your wisdom will reward you.
right, right. So do you think that Jerry is the fool? Do you think Peter is the fool? Or do you think Jerry and Peter are both fools?
I think Jerry and Peter are both, I mean, they're both Albee. So that he's technically playing the fool in both, but it also says something like the heart of the wise is to seek it out or to I had it and it's escaping me. Something like the wise gives thoughts to their own way, but the folly of fools is deception. So
Hmm.
he's trying to figure himself out
Yeah.
and writing this.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
it's
looking at
almost like
himself.
he's trying to find peace within these different conflicting wants and needs. Um,
It's prophetic. He sees where he's going and he's trying to figure out how to get out of it.
yeah, exactly. It's like he doesn't want to become Jerry.
Or
So
Peter.
he's or Peter. Yeah. So how can he escape that and still be true to himself? That's what's tough sometimes, is when we feel like the righteous path doesn't feel authentic within us, you know?
Well,
That's tough.
that's also, I mean, I never met him. I don't know him, but just what I got from interviews with him,
Hmm.
I think he was writing this play. You know, it was a Hail Mary. And then it caught on. And then people were like, oh, this plays about communism and capitalism and patriotism. And it's about the Bible. And it's about sexuality. And it's about all these things. And he's like, and they're like, what do you think it's about? Yes, it could be about those things. Give me
Hmm.
the check. Thank you for the check. Yes. Yeah, sure. About Ronald Reagan? Oh yeah, it could totally be about that. Can I get another check, please?
Right, right. That's the beauty of art and literature, is that it can be interpreted in different ways, and the author doesn't have to reveal,
I
you
know.
know. So when he refused to sort of answer the question, I think there was a reason for that. That was probably part of his motivation for not giving like an explicit answer. So this is another quote from the Zeus story that I appreciate. We neither love nor hurt because we do not try to reach each other. So, this is sort of like the central tragedy of modern life: not hatred, not violence, distance, indifference. Jerry believes the greatest human problem is in our inability to truly connect with one another. And I kind of agree. Um, it reminds me of this other Corinthians quote, Corinthians 13. I have all knowledge, but have not love. I am nothing. The Apostle Paul makes this radical claim that knowledge is not enough, talent is not enough, faith is not enough. Without love, everything collapses into noise. So, what do you think? Do you think love is primarily a feeling or an action? Sounds like you think it's more of an action. Am I getting that right?
Yep. And I mean, that also would kind of, I mean, you could argue the other way, I'm sure, but biblically, I mean, I think it's in John. How do we know that we love God? We obey his commands.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be an action. And
Yeah.
then love itself is a verb. So if
Yeah.
God is love, then God would be an action, which is how everything got here.
Right. Why do you think vulnerability is so difficult in modern life? Like, why do you think it's hard for people to connect? Any thoughts?
I mean, vulnerability is difficult. Everything is difficult in acting.
Yeah.
Because people might not like who you actually are. And then if they didn't like you, then, you know, you are rejected, which is like it's a really, really deep wound that people can't deal with. And it's one thing I've thought about pretty much forever in acting
Hmm.
is when people go down, and they have somebody, I mean, like Marlon Brando, anybody has real vulnerability. It's hypnotic because people, I mean, every day you walk along, your dog just got hit by a car, and I say, "Hey Kim, how are you?" You say, "Oh, I'm great, I'm wonderful,"
Hmm.
but you're not.
Right.
So when somebody actually goes on a stage and does something real and true and vulnerable, I think people's mind, like the unconscious, the subconscious mind, just lets go and
Hmm.
just surrenders like their attention. They get sucked into the scene.
Yeah, I agree. I think that vulnerability is actually the catalyst for human connection. When you can be vulnerable with someone, I hurt just like you. I get angry just like you. I'm imperfect. I get confused. I make mistakes just like you. I think that is actually the catalyst for human connection because so many of us are walking around trying to pretend like we're perfect beings and we hold ourselves to these almost unrealistic standards at times. We're trying to be the image of God or just like the perfect person our parents told us to be. And when we are vulnerable, I think that is key in helping us connect on a deeper emotional level. Which also raises an interesting question. Can we love someone without truly seeing the fullness of who they are?
I think
Can't
so.
you think so?
Yeah. I think it's a conscious decision. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, it helps. I mean, if I have a guy walk into the room for you, and he's like 6'5" and he looks like Superman, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the smartest guy ever. Yeah, that's probably easy.
Mm-hmm.
But
So your view of love is more connected to a religious take, am I right?
well, I mean, in if you were in the Greek, there's like three or four different ways that they had love. We only have the one word for
Mm-hmm.
love. They had a word for love between a man and a woman. I think a love between friends. There's the godly love, and I want to say there's a fourth one, but I'm not a scholar or
Right.
preacher
There's
here.
like eros, there's like all these different
Yes.
types of love.
Yeah.
Yes. So what do you think about love? Like, I know you think it's more of an action, but do you think it's more related to, um, connection with God, with divinity?
I think it all starts there. I mean, if you look at it, they asked Jesus, "What's the greatest command?" Because the Jews, the Hebrews, they had like hundreds of things in the law. I mean, you can't work on Sunday. You have to wear your hair a certain way. I mean, on and on and on. Which one's the most important? And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do they reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
If you honor your neighbor, you'll honor God. If you honor God, you'll honor your neighbor. Basically, you'll see each of those in the other one,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What do you think?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure what to think, actually. I'm still sort of on a journey of exploration. I'm not 100% convinced of anything, and that's why I like having these conversations. And I like exploring texts that can provoke thought about all this stuff.
Right, but about
Um,
the love part.
the love part.
Oh, yeah, can
Say,
we love someone without knowing them or, knowing all of them?
well, if you look at love as an action, you can choose to love someone even if you don't really know them fully, even if they're not being fully themselves, you can still choose to love them as best as you can if you look at love as a choice, as an action. I tend to think of love as mostly a choice, but I also wonder if connecting to something bigger than ourselves, what we call God or divinity, if that plays into it. Do we have the capacity for love if we don't have that spiritual connection? What do you think?
Basically, you can do what's best in your own eyes.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. See, like when you get into that, it's whatever you believe personally. So if I believe that, love is expressed through money, and if I don't give you a certain amount of money, well, then it's not love. But you don't see it that way. Or what if
Right.
my way of loving you is to slap you across the face? For me, that's love.
Yeah.
We get
That's a
into,
love language. Yeah.
we get into this weird, world of no absolutes. I mean, most people will probably come to some common meaning of what love is, but then that changes over time as society drifts. So who knows where we end up?
Yeah. Um, so another quote here you recommended I check out was John 1:14, and that is the word became flesh and dwelt among us. So the Greek word used is logos, and logos can mean word, reason, meaning, pattern, order, intelligence. So ancient Greek philosophers use logos to describe the rational principle behind reality itself. So John here is making kind of an astonishing claim that the ultimate meaning behind reality became a person. So not an idea, not a philosophy, not a doctrine, a person. So why do you think human beings are drawn to that embodiment of truth?
I mean, like subconsciously or consciously, I can tell you, biblically, I mean, I think it's because, we want to see, touch, taste. We want all of that. I mean, when you look at the Old Testament in Judges, they Israel wanted the king over and over and over. They begged for a king, and God, wouldn't give them a king. He said, "I'm your king," but
Mm,
they can't see him.
yeah.
So eventually, he gave them a king, and it went badly. But I mean, since the dawn of humankind, I mean, every single kingdom, every government in the beginning, they were all kings and emperors. I mean, I don't know of why didn't the Egyptians do democracy? They didn't. They did a pharaoh.
Hmm.
And it's always been that way. And then going further back, like again in Proverbs, it seems like, and people will argue with me about this one. So this is the way I see it. God always was, but then it talks about how Jesus is the Word. So the Word would have had to have separated from God, which means the Word was in God, but then it came out. So, but then it talks about how like the world, I mean, what I read earlier talks about the depths were divided by his knowledge, all basically all something like that, all these different aspects of God. But that's what would happen as the word is coming out, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, that does make sense. Um, yeah, it's interesting this concept of the word, right? And how we use words to try to communicate, to try to connect. And in the zoo story, Jerry desperately wants to communicate, and John begins with communication in the Bible, so with word. But also, I feel like words are so limited in how we can really connect.
I
Uh,
think that's because just we don't know what to say, if
yeah,
that makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
like a really talented carpenter, there's probably one somewhere that can do everything with a hammer. I would
yeah,
think that's insane, but he's just
mhm,
really good with a hammer.
yeah, yeah. So when you're thinking about the zoo story, like the tragedy of the zoo story is failed communication, but John offers hope of perfect communication. So the word becoming flesh, right?
That's, yeah, and that's like when I look at this play, when I look at any play, when I look at theater, that's what I see. To me,
Yeah.
that's the job of the actor is to become the word in the flesh.
Yes, it's this concept of the word becoming the flesh. That's what you do when you're performing. That's an interesting way of looking at performing arts, because you're an actor, I'm an actor, we both performed, and I never really quite looked at it like that. But when you think about it, that's what you're doing. You're you're um, the word is becoming flesh.
I mean
So,
that would be the perfect performance. Like if you could,
mhm,
if the, if the writer could just do the play themselves and play all of the parts because they know exactly how they're supposed to be, they wrote it, but they
mhm.
can't, so we stand in.
Yeah. Another quote from Proverbs 8:22-31, which I find really interesting, is I was there when he set the heavens in place. So here, wisdom itself speaks as though wisdom existed before creation. I think it's a beautiful passage because wisdom is not portrayed as information, but as an ever present delight, joy, participation. Creation itself becomes artistic. But what do you think about that quote? What does that mean to you? I was there when he set the heavens in place.
This actually touches on what I was talking about before, like when the word comes out, like these different aspects of God are present. To me, this one is probably not what other people think of, but like when I think of theater, it's not just that verse, it's that whole section. I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above and fixed securely the fountains of the deep, yada yada yada. I was the craftsman at his side. To me, that like is the logos. Like when you read a script, like if I say, Kim, you're gonna do this part, and then you read it, you technically existed before I gave you the script. It's just when you read those ideas, it became alive in you. And like, if I told you to go do this play right now, after I let you read the thing for 10 minutes, it's probably not going to be very good because it's not well formed yet. It's fuzzy. You
Mm-hmm.
have to read it over and over and over until it's formed like inside of you and it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
And that's what I get from that one. And then taking it further, it's like the old you died and the new you takes over.
Yeah. I mean, as an actor, I definitely relate to that feeling of you have to read the script over and over, read the lines over and over until you are that character. And that can be a metaphor for how the Bible affects us. I never quite thought of it that way, but I think actors preparing to perform a play, it can be a similar experience if you're reading the Bible and you're trying to fully understand it and embody it, and bring life to it.
That
So,
was that method I was telling you about. That's
mm,
basically kind of how it went. Like in trying to understand it, things started to change.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this method that you're coming up with, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I don't know where to begin with it because like you said, it's kind of esoteric.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like you talked about characters after like specifically with Zoo Story, I just don't believe in characters anymore because I tried doing this play. When I was in Harrison's class, it was the training of the American actor.
Mm.
So we did Meisner, we did Strasberg, we did Adler, we did I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I want to say we did somebody else.
Stanislavski.
Well, Stanislavski's too big for one class. I mean, he really is because he had the
Yeah.
three books. I mean, Harrison did projects on that. I mean, he had charts and stuff. And, we did Hagen in the class before that. But basically, applying any of those methods to this play, they didn't work. Why didn't they work? To me, I don't think there is any character. I think that's the mistake. Because the other thing, I don't know if you picked up on it. Did you sense that Peter's not really there? Like he's not a complete character.
If Peter's more just like a fragment of a person, not like
Yeah,
a real person, like a figment of Albee's imagination.
it's like a sounding board for
Yeah.
him to
Yeah.
go off on.
Hmm.
So, like in reading that and just, I mean, prayer, thinking about it, that's what started it. I don't think characters exist. I think that Basically, you should try to focus on becoming literally as close as you can, as crazy as it sounds, the living word. Try to think about what was this author thinking and feeling when they wrote this in real time, and it will unveil itself to you. Because like that opening line, I've been to the zoo, Mister, I've been to the zoo. To me, those are the heaviest lines in this entire play. Like when I do this, it just about breaks me to say Mister because of the weight. And maybe I'm imagining it, but when I think about what Albee was going through and how he wrote the thing, yeah, I mean, to confront yourself, to stand there and confront everything that you hate and everything you swore that you would never ever be. Just, I mean, the fear of standing on the edge of the threshold. Because how long did he stand behind, Peter before he could even say, I've been to the zoo?
Yeah.
And and then to have to say it a second time, and then you're ignored.
Yeah.
And then the third time, you know what you have to do, and you have to stand there, and I mean, you have to wait for the words to form in your mouth
Yeah.
to bow to this thing, you know.
Yeah, to face that part of yourself that you are ashamed of, to confront yourself like that. It's like looking in a mirror
A
and
distorted mirror.
yeah, and dealing with that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like how do I live with the parts of myself that I don't like or I don't think are righteous, you know? How do I make peace with that?
And
So
then
I,
they go ahead.
I feel like that's sort of a concept that everybody can relate to on some level, and that's why I like this writing. Um, but it's interesting, you've talked to me a little bit about this acting technique that you're developing, and it sounds a little esoteric, but that's why I like it. So yeah, I whenever you're done, sort of like writing about it, I would love to read the thing in its entirety, and maybe we can talk about it because it sounds unique.
If we ever get there. I mean, it's been like 2 years and we're still not there yet.
um, so what other quotes did you want to read and discuss? Anything specific? I mean, I feel like this material is very rich. I feel like the zoo story asks a lot of interesting questions. Can one human being truly reach another? And John asks, can the word become flesh? Proverbs asks, was wisdom present before creation? Paul asks, what remains if love is absent? So these are all great questions that lead to kind of a final question. Are we lonely creatures searching for meaning, or are we beloved creatures slowly walking up to the meaning that has been searching for us? So I'm curious what you think about those questions.
I mean, you have to come to an end of yourself to be able to get anywhere. And going back to acting, I think it's the same thing there. I mean, the only way I mean, I struggled to do any scene I ever did. The only ones I ever did successfully is when I recognize that it's beyond me and I can't do it. And then it would work. Every time I tried to do it of my own accord, it failed every single time spectacularly.
But then when you sort of surrendered and you accepted that it's sort of not about you, it's beyond ego, it's beyond who you are. It's more than that, then it sort of found you.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, different times in different ways, but yeah. I mean, to completely like tune out and just watch time unfold around you, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have all the time in the world. Like the outcome of the scene has not happened yet. You haven't lost, you haven't won. Nothing has happened yet. So why are you thinking about what will happen? That's the whole point. Like I used to think that life was completely just meaningless. Why are we here? Nothing really, I'm serious, nothing matters.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because I've had those thoughts too.
And then like what I got from scene work is the writer has given you this perfect moment in time. If it's a good play,
Hmm.
everything in that scene will be balanced. Just like, a great court case, you're standing in front of a judge, either side could win,
Hmm.
depending on how you want to play it, what happens in that moment. And so you're able to give yourself fully to this moment. The rehearsals when you're getting ready for it, you run the scene like dozens of times. You're basically living and dying over and over and over and over. And in that process, you learn to trust that the stage is not going to fall out from under you. If you forget the words, the scene will still unfold in kind of the same predictable manner. And once you figure that out, you're able to just let time itself kind of unfurl around you. You start noticing sounds you didn't notice before, smells, you didn't pick up before. And so it's like the writer has written this perfect moment that you get to experience, that you get to inhabit, that you get to step into. And so it's no longer about you. It's about just living in what they created. And it takes the pressure off of you.
Yeah.
It's also why I'm against the character thing now, because I feel like a character is something I had to construct.
Yeah.
But I mean, the writer just what they wrote down, it was always there.
Hmm.
And so it's just trying to understand why is this thing happening? You can't
Yeah.
change it. It's going to happen again. It
Hmm.
was happening. It is happening. And
Yeah.
when the scene's over, I mean, you basically cease to exist. So with that in mind, there is only now. And
Right.
there's a peace in being in just now.
Yeah. Just being present in the now. I mean, that's what I teach as a yoga instructor is just being present in the moment. Um, but I'm curious, any more thoughts you want to share about faith, like your religious faith, and how it relates to art and life before we call it?
I mean, it's what I just said with the scenes, like this similar philosophy, for life.
Hmm.
Because, like I was saying, I used to think that life was pointless. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily about the destination per se. It's about inhabiting the moment and
Yeah.
trusting that everything kind of is, how it should be.
Hmm. So, what does faith mean to you,
I mean, I could quote the Bible because there's a verse that straight up defines it. It's,
if you want to? Or what does it mean in your own
oh,
words?
I mean, I will defer to that because I think it's a better definition. It's something like certain of things we hope for and things not yet seen.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for inspiring me to read the zoo story and think about some of these biblical quotes. If you're listening at home, if you haven't read the zoo story, the play, I recommend reading. I love reading plays. Sometimes reading a play is a completely different experience than watching a play because you use your own imagination. Your own imagination is active when you're reading the play. And it's funny because I know you said when you watched the play, you didn't like it at all.
Because it's like they don't have any meaning behind what they're saying. Like, go and
Yeah.
watch. There's like 4 or 5 productions you can find on YouTube. You can even find the original recording of the play. That one's better. But
Yeah.
when they open it up, they Shatnerize it. A lot of people like they have no idea why they're saying the opening lines. And then even the small talk that happens like after the opening lines, to me, it's basically him checking with the bourgeoisie. Am I living all right? Am I
Right.
doing okay? I'm an adult now. Am I making it? That's why,
Yeah.
like, am I going north? And then the guy's like, well, you're going northerly. And then his comeback to that is he attacks him smoking a pipe because, that's what rich people do. And
Right.
then he says he's going to get cancer from smoking a pipe and he tries, to make a joke. So,
That's funny. Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be curious to I don't know. If I directed the zoo story, I think I would have fun directing it if I had an opportunity to direct it.
I mean,
Because
why
I
not?
think the story itself, it has to be directed in a certain way for it to be effective. And I think there's so much to sort of unpack in this particular story. And I like that it can be interpreted in different ways. Um, So I don't know, maybe I'll direct it one day.
What would you do?
Well, I have to give it a lot more thought,
Okay.
but
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can push it. I mean, I've seen it done, different ways.
yeah.
Some people try to do it as a comedy, which,
I don't
I
know. I
mean,
mean, I would have to think about it, but yeah, I've been getting more into directing in the last few years. Maybe you could be an actor in
let me know. It'll be the first time in probably 15 years.
it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so if you're listening, let us know if you have any thoughts about any of the biblical passages we shared or the zoo story. Let us know what you think about faith, art, love. Let us know what you think about cages we might be building in our society and how we could possibly break free from those invisible cages. How we can come together and communicate in a genuine, authentic way. I always wonder what can we do to communicate better. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear from you. Any closing thoughts?
Um, the Bible and zoo story.
Yeah, read the Bible, read the zoo story. Let us know your thoughts. But
Find God before, the Proverbs, another thing it says is find God before, I think it's the golden vase is shattered, before the silver cord is cut. Basically find him before your life ends.
well, thank you so much for chatting with me tonight, Adam. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you're doing? Like, if people want to like keep up with what you're doing? I know you're developing this acting technique. So maybe
Uh,
once it's fully developed, you can come back and we can talk about
well, maybe. Uh,
it.
I'd love to if I can get there. Like I said, it's been a work in progress for a while.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Stay inquisitive out there, and we'll see you next time.